Hello, welcome to another episode of The High Ground, powered by Premier Companies. Ryan, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Always good. We're always good.
Yeah.
Got a special guest in the podcast room with us today, Steve Anthofer, all the way from West Central Iowa. What's the town's name?
Carroll.
Carroll, Iowa. Said he battled the snow and blowing blizzard conditions to get out here with us today.
Right. He's glad to be in this weather, and we're kind of wishing it would go away.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I can handle this.
So Steve is the director of R&D support with Winfield United. But first, Steve, I don't know if you're aware or not, but we always have the question of the day. And the guest gets to go first.
Okay.
And the question of the day today, yeah, I see the
Look at the excitement.
if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the fear in his eyes.
That's right.
Easy question. What song brings back childhood memories, and what are they?
Oh, man. Yeah, you can go a lot of directions with that.
That's right. Remember, this is a G-rated, G13.
Yeah, well,
Right.
no, I'll stay G-rated for sure.
All right.
When you're talking childhood memories, I'll start with the memories probably, right?
Yeah. And childhood, big range, right?
Yeah, it is. But one thing that brings a lot of memories back is AM radio, because our tractors and even the 81 Chevy, pickup that we drove on the farm only had AM radio.
Your Fender mount radio?
Yeah, we had a Fender mount on the 4020.
Nice.
And so we'd be out harvesting or doing cultivating, doing field work, and I always wanted to look for a station that wasn't country music. And not that I have anything against country music, but
There was
only one station, and it was oldies. So anytime I hear a 60s type oldies, that was considered oldies at the time in the 80s. So things like Dion and the Belmonts or Frankie Valli, or anytime I hear songs like that, if I had to pick one, I don't know. I mean, maybe the Marcel's Blue Moon or something.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean,
And you go back to field cultivating.
that one specifically reminds me. I think I was sitting on the 4020 in my coveralls. It was cold out, and we were hauling corn in.
Listening to
And
Blue
so-
Moon.
Yeah, because it was not country.
That's right. Well, you didn't have many choices on AM radio. I mean, you had 40,000 watts of pure Christian power, or,
Yeah.
the religious programming, or all the country stations, or 60s.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's one.
And it always had that radio that it didn't matter how big the field was on one end of the field, it would go out. Yeah. And you'd have to drive back into it. Sure. That's fun. A good one.
That is a good one. Ryan?
Oh, so it's me. So yeah, I don't know. Probably the one that sticks out in my mind is my dad was never one to sing or be all that much into music, but there's a Don Williams song from back in the 70s called Some Broken Hearts Never Mend. And my dad would sing that song, and I remember crawling into his pickup truck, and he would be taking me to school or to babysit or something. I was pretty little, but I remember crawling up in that, and when that would come on, he'd turn it, and it wasn't like he was singing to anyone. He would just sing that song. And,
Yeah.
so that takes me back to being little, to the stage I had to crawl up into the floorboard and then crawl up into the seat. But yeah, that takes me back to that time. So Don Williams, Some Broken Hearts Never Mend, sticks out.
Yeah, Ryan's got that classic country voice over the
He
mic
does,
here,
doesn't he?
Kinda,
He's got that
you can tell.
radio voice.
Yeah, a face for radio. Sure. Sal?
Well, mine's kind of strange. It's this has to be the answer, because only this one really pops out. In our cafeteria at the high school where I went to high school at, in the cafeteria they put a jukebox in there back in the probably 82, 3 time frame, maybe 84, somewhere in there. And they put a jukebox in the cafeteria. And there was a girl in our class, and every day she would go up there and put $1 in, which would probably play a significant
At least
amount
10 if you listen
right?
to the song, if you put another dime in the jukebox.
And
So, yeah.
she would play Jack and Diane by
Really?
Mellencamp.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Good
Every
You're in Seymour, Indiana, and you hung up on that?
Isn't that odd? Yeah. So I'm in Seymour, Indiana. This is where their office, our corporate office, and John Cougar Mellencamp at the, I think just John Mellencamp now. I don't know what he goes by, but anyhow, every day it was Jack and Diane, and of course every day at school you had hamburgers and French fries. That was the option, or you could get the plate lunch. So I can't hear that song without thinking about French fries
Nice.
and the high school hamburgers. So that's it.
Well,
That's
it's funny when you think about music and it sends you back to your childhood. So I listened to, we're just coming out of the holiday season a few weeks ago, and I listened to these old classic Christmas. And man, I tell you what, those songs will take you. Those songs will
Yeah.
take Burl Ives or somebody like that singing those Christmas songs. You're like, oh, I remember that
thinking
well.
of Frosty the Snowman.
Oh yeah, laying on the living room floor and watching Rudolph or something, and yeah, it's just
Been at my
those are fun.
grandparents, and that was when all the cigarette smoke, everybody smoked, of course.
You
but
laid under the
it was
cigarette smoke.
It was the temperature inversion layer of the wood stove and the cigarette smoke. You
Yeah.
had a whole layer.
Yeah, we laid on our bellies and watched TV.
Yeah.
Yep.
The 20-inch TV or whatever.
Yeah,
it
you had to
was,
stay
tube
close
TV.
because somebody had to change it.
That's right.
Oh, get to something serious. Sal.
Okay. Well, Steve, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your career path and how you got to Winfield United and what you do with Winfield United today.
Well, okay. We can start with career path. I started out as a retail seller at West Central Co-op in Western Iowa, in my hometown, actually. In high school, I took a lot of science classes and math, and I was really prepping to become an engineer. But about the time of my senior year, I decided I probably just couldn't leave the farm. I enjoyed
Okay.
row crop production too much. We had livestock too, so I grew up on a corn, soy, livestock farm and
Cattle feedlot or
no, not cattle. It was hogs.
Hogs,
It was
yep.
farrow to finish, and we did it the hard way too, in outdoor barns and
oh
wow. So that was part of my reason for going to college, right? I ended up going to Iowa State and getting a degree in agronomy because I love science, and so I went the agronomy route instead of ag biz. But my intention was to come home and farm, and you just never know what direction your career is going to go, right? When you come out of school, you just follow a path at the time. And so I took a job as a salesman and really enjoyed agronomy and started to build a career. Along the way, answer plots came along, and one of the first answer plots was at my location in Audubon that I served. And so I got connected there early on. I learned a lot of stuff. Along the way, I decided to go back to school and pick up a master's in agronomy. And
while you were still a seller,
yeah, well, still a
and
seller.
still close to home.
Yep, still close to home. And I also had met what would be my future wife, and I ended up moving to Central Iowa and worked for Heartland Co-op for a short amount of time. Finished my master's and at the time Land O'Lakes Seed Company, right? This
Yeah.
is going back a ways. There wasn't a Winfield or Winfield United. One of the folks I had met through answer plots at Land O'Lakes Seed Company called me up and said, "Hey, we're expanding the answer plot program. Would you want to come work for us?" And I'm like, "Well, okay, yeah, sure. What are you talking?" And he said, "Wisconsin. We need a guy in Wisconsin." I was like, "They grow corn in Wisconsin?" I don't know.
What's up there?
Yeah, they did. It was a great experience. Funny deal, though. A funny story. While I was a seller in Audubon, we did sell some alfalfa there once in a while, and cropland alfalfa.
10 bags.
Yeah, 10 bags. It was enough that my DSM decided to take us to West Salem, where the FGI
Wow.
breeding station is there. And I'll never forget, we were going on a tour of that breeding station. I was like, that'd be pretty cool to work here. And 3 years to the day, I was living 2 miles from that breeding station.
No way.
Nice.
Working for that. Just funny where life takes you.
That's
You don't
pretty
even
cool.
expect it. I never would have expected that. But
Huh.
yeah. So anyway, I spent 4 years in Wisconsin. I spent 7 years as a retail seller at those two co-ops, and then I spent 4 years in Wisconsin as a research manager in the Enserplot system. And along the way, the program had grown enough. We had to split out some product management duties and operational duties of my boss at the time. And so I took over operations for all of Enserplots in about 2009.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and I've been doing that since. And then along the way, you also accumulate other duties, right?
So operations for answer plots. Tell us a little bit about what all that involves.
Yeah. So answer plots is kind of like research on the road. We don't have stations like a lot of research organizations do. We have remote crews. They live in their territories. They have equipment, but we manage all their equipment and supply needs through a central hub in Iowa. And then we truck things out where we need them when the season calls for it. We call it a hub and spoke approach to doing research. And so we have the remote teams, and then we have a shared operations facility at Vincent, Iowa, that serves all of those remote teams with supplies. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. And then now to the role you're in today.
Yeah. So still doing that, but gosh, I got a great group of managers that they take care of the day-to-day business. So SureTech Labs is now falls under my responsibilities. Jody Janes is our lab manager, does all the work pretty much. My role there is just to try to connect them to a broader Winfield United strategy and look for opportunities with technology.
So you might just delve into SureTech Labs just for a minute. What they do, just to make sure our listeners understand what you're talking about.
SureTech Labs is a full-service soil and feed analysis lab located in Indianapolis. We've been part of the Land Lake system for 20 some years. Oh, well, no,
it'd be longer than that.
It'd be since the 70s in some way, shape, or form. It had probably had different names along the way, but it's evolved into a state-of-the-art soil lab, number one, but also we do feed analysis, water analysis, you name it.
So kind of explain for the listeners what that, on our end, we know what it kind of looks like with soil sampling and we go out in the fields and we'll pull these soil samples and then we'll package them up in bags that have QR codes so we can reference them back, and then we ship them off to the lab. So kind of tell us what happens at the lab when they get this sample in.
Well, yeah, at the lab, they number one is they scan those barcodes, right, to create a unique identifier. So as the sample works its way through the lab through a number of different analyses, the data that comes from those can always be connected back to that unique identifier, and then that data through API interfaces comes back to the customer, and they can feed into their precision systems.
Sure.
However.
Okay.
If you want to talk about the analysis, the actual analyses, I'm not the guy to do that.
I saw the look in your eyes for that too. Yeah,
Right.
That was almost like the
So
question.
explain this. Yeah.
If you want to know the instruments, let's get Jody.
So, all right. Well, let's. We referenced the answer plot. So, what is an answer plot, and how many of them do you have scattered across the area? And
thanks for asking. Right. How many?
Right.
How many do you think there are?
So there's a rule that guests don't get to ask questions
works
to
better.
those, right?
Works a lot better if the guests don't ask us questions.
So maybe you don't want to come back, but that's a quick way to get booted off is to ask us questions. so that my answer to that is I'm guessing there's several.
Yeah. Well, I like the question because there are a lot of. I always like to hear what people think, or what their perception of the program is, and so there are actually 95 answer plots that. The question itself is difficult just because there are answer plot activities that are executed by my internal team, and then we do a lot of contract work with outside contractor organizations. So there are actually 95 answer plots that are planted, sprayed, harvested, maintained by my crews internally, and then there might be another 40 or 50 contract locations of performance testing or something simple that we have out there. Not that.
Like, how's the farthest? Where's the farthest one? South, north, east, west? Like, sort of what's that range?
Louisiana would be our furthest south. North, I'm trying to think of the name of the North Dakota city, but north central North Dakota.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if city and North Dakota really go together.
State of North Dakota.
Yes.
There you go.
And so you do all the crews do all the planting and harvesting, and then what do they do? I guess to what end? What are we trying to find out in these answer plots?
Yeah, well, let's break this into two things. What answer plots have always been about is number one, training for sellers. The greatest thing that appealed to me as a seller was I could learn about products in depth, and it built my confidence in positioning those with my farmer customers. And so that's always been a priority and still is. We have demonstration plots that we use in a various number of ways to accomplish that. But number two is always proven performance locally. If 95 locations doesn't give us ultra local performance information, but it does give us a geographic spread to understand products better and help position them better and build better brands for Winfield United and our owners.
So that's neat.
so
It's got two things.
yeah.
One is just training for our own education, the staying up to date, up to current on the ever evolving science of agriculture, and then the second thing is just to test the products, right?
Yeah.
The seed or the pesticides, whichever one we're going to look at, to see how well they work.
Yeah. I guess when I was a young seller, I was 23 years old and out of school, and I was asked to sell seed, and I was like, I don't know anything about the seed business.
Brian, how is that?
Yeah, right. Yep. I can't sympathize with that at all.
And it started there. Seed was our biggest focus for the first, for the first 10 years, just about. And then Winfield came together as a company, and we transformed from kind of a ragtag seed testing and demonstration program to a comprehensive, applied agronomic research organization.
Wow.
So to what extent do you control? I mean, I remember the response to nitrogen's response to pop. So like what all do you do with a hybrid? So you put a hybrid in and we get a lot of plot data that we see come back across all different kind of brands. It says, well, it made 350 bushel the acre here.
Right.
And you don't know without some control. So what are you checking for?
Well, specific to seed.
Yeah, seed.
Yeah,
for this
specific
instance.
to seed, we're trying to characterize our hybrids in a way that a seller can differentiate or position better with a grower for a higher probability of success. So, yeah, how dense should you plant a given hybrid, right? What's the optimal there? Also, response to nitrogen, we are testing that, and our goal is to understand, how to spread your nitrogen dollar better, right? Whether it gets used that way, we hope it does. But lately, and then another one is response to fungicide. How can you have the most success with fungicide? We know the number of acres treated with a fungicide don't match up with what our data tells should be treated with fungicide. Okay. And so we know there are factors that influence success with fungicide applications, at least in corn. And we've found some great insights there, but along with those great insights come more questions. We believe there's an interaction between nitrogen and fungicide and success rate. And so that's something we're still trying to answer questions to, but
it's amazing how many variables
Yeah.
that you have to do, and to kind of eliminate those variables. Explain how we get good data. I mean, sometimes I know farmers can become kind of cynical about data whenever everybody that pulls in their driveway,
Yeah.
everybody's got the best stuff, right?
Everything you got adds 10 bushel. I had
Yeah.
a farmer tell me
Yeah.
one time, if that's the case,
Right.
I ought to be raising 4,000 bushel
That's
a acre.
So they get kind of cynical about data. So tell us about the data from the answer plot. And one, we're a cooperative. Winfield United's a cooperative. Land Lakes cooperative. Premier Ag's cooperative locally. And we're telling you what we're selling you. And so what makes the data so strong out of the answer plot system?
Well, first of all, growers should be skeptical. I mean, especially when you don't have context around what you see. In answer plots, we can give that context. Everybody's going to say they're the best and they do everything right. All I can say is, that's a focus of our team is quality and knowing that we're a co-op system. A lot of my employees probably came up in the retail system and have, they feel it's their duty to provide quality data and accurate data. And so we have systems in place. Other companies have systems in place. I don't, to say that's a differentiator, I don't know, but we feel like we're looking for things that we got, there's no reason to mask what we're finding. Sometimes transparency is the best part of that, right?
To explain the LSD and why that's so important?
Oh, well, Yeah. So a lot of data clips you see in magazines or whatever, they probably just show a bushel number and of improvement on, but all that tells you is, well, okay, that was an observation. And LSD, I don't know how deep you want to go. I'm passionate about this one, but
Go ahead.
yeah, no, and LSD.
Ryan and I will be back.
Well, we'll start.
Right. Carl, just tell us when he's
Yeah, just to be simple, I mean, when you're comparing the means of two different samples in a trial, we use LSD as a calculation to understand, whether the sampling error is greater than the difference between the means, right? So if you have a 10 bushel difference between two hybrids, but when you look at the repetitions, the differences are 20 bushels from one rep to the other, but the mean is greater than this one. The action there, we can't honestly say with confidence that there's a difference between those two in performance. So those are important things to know.
And then you actually tell what the LSD is in every.
Yeah, we share that information. We're not shy about it. We publish most of our performance data with a LSD calculated at a 90% confidence interval, which when you see university publications, they use 95. But we're using a little farmer sense there. We're like, okay, if I'm a farmer and I'm looking at an LSD at a 95% confidence interval versus 90, I'm like, I'll trust the 90. I'll take a chance that 10% of error is reasonable. And so
Yeah, just kind of a different concept to get your head around that. One hybrid might win by 5 or 6 or 7 bushels, but if the LSD is 8
yeah
or something, but
right.
that those two hybrids, we can't say that one's better than the other one.
There's still a chance that they are different, but we can't say that with confidence.
Sure.
So how do you pick a spot for the answer plot? We all know that we take yield data from what we call our ice cream ground. Do you irrigate any of them? You make sure they're tiled. So what makes a spot for an answer plot?
Well, that's a great question. There are a number of factors that go into them, right? First of all, we want them close to aligned owners, right? So they can use the demos. So geography does matter. And I hate to say it, sometimes being on a paved road matters, right? Yeah, all your roads are paved out here, aren't they?
Yeah, most of them are now.
They are now.
Back home, we still have gravel, and some of the best fields are out on gravel roads,
Sure.
right? But quality of ground, consistency. You mentioned ice cream ground. Yes, we end up on a lot of ice cream ground because typically consistency goes together with quality and the quality of ground, right? But we look at a number of factors. We look at imagery. We look at drainage maps. We look at tile maps to try to understand, is this going to lead to good research? But we also, when we design our trials, we dimension the reps to try to give us the best, success rate on a number of types of ground. So, even in the South, there are a lot of sand blows. Maybe you have some of those around here too, but that can cause a lot of problems with trial designs, and so having the reps built right helps alleviate some of that variability in the field.
Mm-hmm. Steve, there's a lot of things under your responsibility for R&D support. What's the connection between all those? So you got the lab where you test the soil, you've got an answer plot over here where you're testing the seed, and how do all these things connect?
Yeah. Well, are you guys familiar with our innovation center?
No.
I should go back. The team I currently serve on, I didn't get this far with the career question, is our, it just changed. So I got to come up with a new name, right? It's basically our R&D team, our Winfield United R&D.
You can name it right now, Steve.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we can. So I serve on a team with colleagues like Dr. Mark Risley, who heads up our innovation center in River Falls, Wisconsin. What they do is develop new crop protection, plant nutrient performance products, and bring them to market. Right. We work hand in hand with them to take those products from development to a later stage in answer plots where we can teach people about them and test performance on a broader scale. So that's one connection there. SureTech Labs, we work with SureTech on fertility things all the time. Also, our forage samples from our corn silage testing goes to SureTech, and so SureTech's a valuable part of research projects within where we're actually one of SureTech's biggest customers.
Okay.
So, yeah, and then FGI, I can't even forget about FGI.
Oh, yeah.
The best alfalfa in the world. We have an alfalfa breeding program that's top notch, and they connect in too with our seed and CP businesses.
And what's for our listeners? Why is alfalfa important? Where is that used? I know that you know, but what do we use alfalfa for?
Well,
we think of corn and
yeah.
soybeans down here.
Yep.
If you're in Iowa or Southern Indiana or Illinois, so in Wisconsin, a lot of alfalfa.
Yeah.
So what do they do with that?
So Land O'Lakes is a dairy company, and so the dairy market where the cows are is where we sell our alfalfa, right? And we actually have between licensed brands and everything, we have somewhere around 60% market share with FGI germplasm nationwide.
Wow.
And we have a global presence too in China. Alfalfa, when I moved to Wisconsin, that's one thing I got to learn about a lot.
I bet.
We had alfalfa in Iowa, but it was like vernal and sunrise,
Buffalo,
right? Remember
buffalo
that?
alfalfa.
Buffalo here. and so you learn a lot about what makes quality feed in the bunk for dairy cows or beef, but in Wisconsin, mainly dairy. Wisconsin's one of the biggest market share areas for us, but also South Dakota, the I-29 corridor, there's a fair amount of dairy cows there, and we have a lot of market share there as a company, and so alfalfa is important to us.
Very good.
Right.
Well, Steve, do you have what else is going on in Winfield United? What other upcoming projects do you have? I know you got Glenda coming in here this afternoon. So what other upcoming projects is happening at Winfield?
Oh gosh. Right now is our big planning period. The answer plot teams, FDI, everybody's working on land leases and project finalization. Seed packaging will start here in 2 to 3 weeks, and then equipment prep, and we'll be planting in Louisiana here the 1st of March or last week of February. So
got to be labor intensive, isn't it, to get all those trial bags and all the equipment shipped out to almost 100 different sites, and then plus the ones that you're contracting for.
Correct.
Getting all that broken out, and how many? So with the local teams, how big is their areas? Like one state, or kind of depends?
Depends on the area, but we used to say about a state size. We have an Indiana crew that covers all of Indiana, and sometimes they'll run down to Tennessee for something, Kentucky. Not so much, but and then in North Dakota we have 3 teams. Because of the variation, we have a diverse crops team that does wheat, canola, and sunflowers, and they dip into South Dakota a bit too. But
all right. Well, that's all I've got, Ryan. Do you have anything else?
Nope. I appreciate it. I know we've all benefited from the answer plots through the years, no doubt.
It's good to have the data. One of the things that those are reflected in is it's available on the seller's iPads. I mean, it comes through with those CHT charts where they can quickly go through and reference the years of data that they've got. And it's pretty neat how they go through that and use the answer plot data to select the hybrids for the growers.
Yeah, well, thanks for your support.
Yeah,
thanks for having me today.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
You bet.
Well, that's another episode of The High Ground, powered by Premier Companies. And please like and subscribe. And if you make comments or have questions down in the comments section, we'd be glad to answer them.
Yep. Thank y'all.
Thank y'all. Bye.